Former Howard Government Minister Ian Campbell thinks Mark McGowan is a sure bet.
It would be, I think, inconceivable for the Liberal Party to have a chance of winning this election. This government has performed well, the McGowan government has performed well, and it deserves to be re-elected.
Now working in the corporate sector with a seat on a number of boards, the Liberal stalwart says the Labor government has been good for WA. You've made the transition from politics to business. What's your experience with the McGowan government? Has it been good at consulting with business?
They have been, in my experience, incredibly open. They have been accessible. They have a very can-do attitude. They're very pro getting stuff done in this state.
And he acknowledges Labor's management of the pandemic has been popular, despite February's snap lockdown costing hundreds of millions.
I thought it was an overreaction, but my thoughts are totally irrelevant because most West Australians would disagree with me and are going to say that the sort of cautious, conservative, dare I say it, approach that Mark McGowan and Roger Cook and his team have taken is the right approach.
Rob Scott is the CEO of Wesfarmers, one of the biggest employers in the state. He agrees Mark McGowan deserves credit for WA's strong COVID response.
If I think about Western Australia, we obviously benefit from being quite an isolated state, but I think the government has done a very good job of keeping some of our critical mining commodity sectors operating, which are important not just to WA but also the nation.
Although many businesses were frustrated by a perceived lack of clear guidance at the start of the 5-day lockdown, the view broadly is that it worked.
Look, we don't always agree on how the processes we might go through around communicating or managing lockdowns, but to be honest, that's all really around the edges. I think that there's a lot that we can all learn from each other and from other states on how we can adopt more measured approaches and more risk-based approaches to future lockdowns, how we can improve testing and contract tracing, how we can improve hotel quarantining. There's always room for improvement, but overall, I think it's been not a bad outcome.
WA Labor's strong ties with business in the state has left the Liberals struggling to re-engage supporters who were put off during the Barnett years.
Well, I think business, to be really frank, and that's what you'd want me to be, did get tired of the Liberal Party during the last term of government. And I don't think the business community in Perth and Western Australia more broadly have moved on from that yet. I think you've got to call a spade there. The Liberal Party of Western Australia should be a pro-business party. It should be vigorously pro-free enterprise, pro-building the business economy, business-based economy. And the business community was exasperated by the end of the last term of the last Liberal government, and things haven't recovered from there.
The new Liberal leader has accused Mark McGowan of being too close to business, comparing Labor's relationship with corporate donors to the WA Inc. days of the 80s. In particular, he's questioning why the state's largest private land developer, Nigel Satterley, a Liberal Party member, is fundraising for the Labor leader.
I understand the concerns in the business community where there seems to be a chosen few who donate large sums of money to the Labor Party who get the opportunity to talk to the government about the issues that they have, and the vast majority of business feels like they're being left out in the cold.
But Ian Campbell says it's the Liberal Party that needs to re-examine its relationship with business. How can the WA Liberal Party rebuild to get back into a strong position? What changes need to be made?
There's a lot of bridges to be rebuilt. That can't be done in 4 years, but it needs to be done. The Liberal Party should be the natural party of business, and right now, to be frank, it's not.
The despair is so deep within the Liberal Party about its prospects at the state election that it's begun messaging telling Western Australians to vote for the Liberals to ensure that Labor doesn't get total control of the state parliament, arguing a solid opposition is needed for a strong democracy.
It is really important for Western Australia to have a serious opposition. It's important in any democracy. You've actually got to have high quality people on both sides of the aisle, and you've got to have an opposition to keep the government accountable.
But for despondent Liberals in the state, Ian Campbell is keen to point out political fortunes do change.
swings and roundabouts of the game of politics anywhere in the world, but particularly here in Western Australia, are such that the Liberal Party will bounce back from this. They just need to keep doing the hard work. And they are hard yards. Opposition is a horrible place to be. But as Mark McGowan will tell Zak one day, it's amazing how quickly things turn around.
For the Liberals, it's unlikely to be quick enough, with recent polls suggesting WA Labor is heading towards its biggest ever state election victory. Ashley Gillen, Sky News, Perth.